Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to episode 10 of Takeaways. My name is Patrick Searcy. I'm Director of Marketing for ALN Apartment Data, and I am here joined by the star of the show, Jordan Brooks, who's our Senior Market Analyst. Jordan, thanks for joining us.
Great to be here as always. How are you, Patrick?
I'm doing well. This year as a company, we're celebrating our 30th anniversary, and we want to take this opportunity to thank all of our employees, all of our clients and friends for all of your support over 3 decades. And over on our blog, we've got a post about it. So head on over to alndata.com/blog to read it. In the meantime, we're here to talk about your article, Jordan. This is called Top Price Classes Lead the Multifamily Rebound. Now, it sounds like there's some good news in there, but before we jump into that, the price class information, let's talk about the national story. What's been going on so far this year?
Well, nationally, we've really seen a continuation of a recovery in apartment demand that started in the third quarter of last year. Net absorption was over 150,000 units from the period January through April of 2021, far surpassing what we saw not only in 2020, which comes with the caveat that COVID really started impacting multifamily numbers in April. So that's going to be a little bit of a noisy comparison. But even if you go back to 2019 and 2018, this level of demand is far outpacing what we saw in those years, and that's kind of along with a construction pipeline that has remained very active, about 130,000 new units delivered through April of this year. Again, that's a high number compared to the last handful of years, and kind of the net result of that new supply and the level of demand has been an average effective rent gain of about 2.1% again through April. And that's really kind of a main difference from what we saw in the back half of 2020, where we saw the demand coming back, but rent growth was still missing. This year, the demand has been sustained, and we're starting to see some rent growth kind of come down the pike. And part of that has to do with lease concessions that are, I think, finally have kind of peaked and are on the downward side, both in terms of availability and value.
Well, it's the main portion of the topic. Can you refresh our audience on what ALM means by price classes?
Sure. So we use price class, and the way we define that is we basically assign every conventional property of at least 50 units to a price class A, B, C, or D. And that ranking is determined by the property's average effective rent per square foot percentile in its market. So we're basically taking a property that operates as a class A in one market, and this allows us to compare it to a property that operates in the class A space within its market, even though they may not necessarily be all that comparable. So, a class A in Mobile, Alabama versus a class A in San Francisco. These are properties that operate in the same space within their markets. And so it allows us to do comparisons that way. And just for viewers of this, basically class A will be the top 12% of properties. Class B will be the next 20%. Class C will be the next 38%. And then Class D would be the bottom 30%.
Okay. Well, your article is called Top Prices, or Top Price Class Leads the Multifamily Rebound. What's the main difference in performance so far this year between those price classes?
The main difference is rent growth. A similarity that we've seen across the board is stronger demand than in recent years for all four price classes. So that's a similarity. Difference, though, is that we're seeing rent growth for the most part in Class A and B. It's certainly strongest in Class A and B. And some of that has to do with in those top two price tiers, we have seen concessions come down, again, both in terms of availability and in the average discount value. When we go into classes C and D, the picture is a little bit different there because Class C, the availability of concessions has come down, but the average value has continued to increase through April. And then in Class D, actually both concession metrics have increased through April of this year. So we're seeing concessions come down at the top of the market, and that's helping rent growth. And at the bottom of the market, as I said, demand is still outpacing recent years. So that's a positive sign. It just is not converting into rent growth right now. And, and that makes sense with what we're seeing in the market. These are jobs that were more affected by COVID last year and the disruption brought by COVID than in some of the Class A's and B's, it's more remote worker types and things like that. So it's to be expected that we're not really seeing the rent growth in the bottom tiers that we're seeing in the top, but that's really been the main difference.
Well, I know May's been super busy for you. What do you got coming up next?
May was busy. Thankfully, I've got a little bit of a slowdown here coming up in the short term, but I will be speaking at the Dallas Builder Expo June 16th and again on June 17th. And as the name would suggest, that'll be an event in Dallas. And then viewers of this can also continue looking at our blog, alndata.com/blog. And we're going to have some content going up here pretty shortly, looking at some markets around the country that have either done particularly well this year or have struggled more than the average market so far this year. So we'll be putting up some good content. And other than that, we'll, I guess, see everyone back for our next month installment of Takeaways.
Well, and don't forget that you can find out when those articles are posted on our blog. You can follow us on Twitter at ALN APT Data, or you can search for ALN Apartment Data on Facebook or LinkedIn. Make sure you're clicking that subscribe button, click that bell. You'll get notified whenever we do put up new content. Jordan, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today. I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you next month.
You too. Thanks, Patrick.